Okay, welcome to A Funny Thing Called Business. This is where four business owners with over 30 years collective experience under our belts share the capers and triumphs of running a small business and how we now avoid perilous customer chaos and pitfalls. So today we have Clare Whalley,
Darren Langley,
Kate Curry,
Pete Morgan.
Fabulous. Welcome, lovely people. So today we are talking about the very important topic about your first year in business. Now, we wanted to talk about this morning with you because, well, according to a recent survey conducted through Direct Line, 4 million people have decided to use the opportunity of redundancy this year to become their own boss. So we know that this is a very hot topic. So I would love you guys to cast your minds back to that first year in business. Darren, I'd love you to start. What's your favourite story that you have about your first year in business?
Well, I mean, for me, my first year in business was a long time ago. It was like 12 years ago or more. So I'm sure it all went really swimmingly and perfectly to plan. But yeah, of course, naturally. But I think actually, in truth, the fact is I didn't really have a plan and a business plan as such. You know, I just thought I'll design websites, people will pay me money, job done, and I'll retire by the time I'm 45. And now I'm 45 and a long way from retirement, but there we go. Maybe I should have had a plan. I think though, in part of it, you know, the ignorance of not having a plan, and you may not agree with me on this one, Claire, because it kind of, not having a plan, the ignorance of that led me to be a bit braver, I think. I think if I'd thought about it too hard, maybe I'd have been, you know, a bit too nervous or discouraged or whatever from doing it. So, you know, I kind of managed to muddle my way through, I suppose, for the first year, and then for the subsequent 11, 12 years since, really.
I completely agree, Darren. You know, I am, my first year in business was 13 years ago. I did have a plan. It wasn't worth the paper it was written on. It's embarrassing now thinking about that business plan, and I'm doing that in inverted commas, that I thought I had. And I, like you, went into it thinking, yeah, right, business coach, the inquiries, the clients will come flooding in and everyone will be like, oh, you're a business coach. Yeah, where do I sign up? And I think everybody goes into business thinking that I open the door and people will be queuing outside. It's ridiculous. So Kate, tell us about your first year in business.
Oh, well, mine was very similar in a lot of ways. I suppose it's going to be a recurring theme with our stories here. My business plan was a complete scattergun approach. Who do I work for? Everybody. What do I do? Anything. And I was quite happy to just go out there and sell myself like that. And but I think, like, I do agree with Darren. I think doing that approach really made me learn very quickly what it is that I don't want to be doing and who I don't want to be working for and where my strengths really were. But it took me, you know, quite a long time, actually, way beyond the first year, to really understand what those important parts of my business were. And I think two of the turning points for me was going on a business course, which really helped me to understand the nuts and bolts of how business needs to work. I just hadn't got a clue. And the other one was enlisting a business coach, which really helped me to really understand how I need to sell myself and how I need to sort of map out my processes and all of those sorts of things. So both of those things were big turning points for me in my business. And part of me wishes I'd come to those realizations a bit earlier on in my journey, and perhaps that first year might not have been quite so hairy as it turned out to be.
Oh, completely, Kate. I think me as a business coach, I felt like, why do I need a business coach? I am a business coach. I should know all the answers. but of course we don't. And that was a real big realization for me. And the advice I would implore every business owner: never be afraid of putting your hand up and saying you need help, because it's impossible. You cannot know everything you need to know in business. You just can't. Even, 13, 14 years in, there's still loads of learning, isn't there?
I would never stop learning.
No.
There's always curveballs, and I think you have to be prepared for that if you're going into business. That you will be on the biggest, scariest roller coaster of your life, quite possibly. The highs are extremely high, but the lows are very low, and you just have to hold on and smile for the camera.
Absolutely. Pete, how was your first year in business?
So this is now, I'm into my 4th year of this business. And I think if someone had said, so I started it in 2017, and if someone had said, okay, this is what's going to be happening in I think I would have gone, forget it. Let's do something else. Let's go. Because like you've all said, I had that, some would call it confidence, some would call it arrogance, to think, I am going to put myself out there and people are just going to come and start, taking on board what I've got to give. I think my other thing was when I started, because of my previous life working in radio, I started with about 7 things. And it became quickly evident that I couldn't try and easily market all 7 things equally. I was going to have to kind of choose and
you had
things down.
7 different services.
Yeah, absolutely. I was having, and some of them I still do, but it's recurring clients that I've used, every year, and the podcasting has come to the fore. And I think the other thing I did, and I think Darren maybe experienced a little bit of this, people weren't as ready for podcasting in 2017, certainly not in the UK. They weren't ready for a business podcast. And it's just taken a lot of waiting around for people to go, right, okay, yeah, now we need to do it. And now we're seeing kind of increases, and people that you had coffees with 2 years ago, kind of coming back. And I kind of made that mistake as well of, didn't really have a plan, just kind of, it was all just right, just make money. And I got myself a business coach very early on, and she's a lovely person, but she was not the right business coach for me. But it took me.
Sorry, Claire. This is how you find out. But,
Wasn't me.
It really was. And I'm not going to say her name because she's a lovely person. But I don't think she quite understood what I was offering.
Well, Pete, you're a trailblazer.
Thank you very much. and so I don't think she knew how to advise. She had a great book of contacts and put us in touch with some very interesting people, but it didn't really work. And it's really only been probably in the past 12, 18 months that I've thought, okay, I think I'm getting a better idea as to what I need to be doing in the direction, the kind of structure that the business needs to have. But yeah, I think like all of us, I just kind of ran headlong into it like a child into a bouncy castle. You were just like, yeah, come on.
Oh God, that's so true. It's so true. But I think, you have to give yourself, it's mad, but a couple of years to kind of settle into it, start earning some money, start understanding how the world of it all works. You kind of just wake up and expect, that salary coming in every month. You expect the same to happen in your business, and it doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
what you said there, Pete, about how, when you started out and in terms of finding customers and things, it reminded me of something that Seth Godin said, which was don't find customers for your products, find products for your customers. And it's just about kind of being aware of the, I guess, of the market and listening to what people actually are after, and then responding to that rather than forcing things on people. And I suppose, you know, that's kind of what happened, but you know, it's sort of.
No, that's it. That's a great. I really like that line, and I think I've kind of discovered that over time. But yeah, initially it really was. I was kind of like podcast mugging of you. Make a podcast, you know, and we talked about this in the networking episode. That every one-to-one in every network meeting was, how can I get money out of this person?
Yeah.
How can they give me some money now? Yeah, it took a while to just get over that kind of mindset, really.
Yeah, I hear you. I remember my my first networking meeting. It is etched onto my brain of walking in to a golf club at 6:45 in the morning. And someone, well, it just been like a boardroom full of grey suits, and someone mistook me for a college student. Yeah. Even though I was in my early 30s, I think it's a height thing. So yeah, that still brings me lots of cringes. But I remember as well in my first year, you know, I was doing a lot of gardening for a friend of mine who runs a landscape gardening business. And I remember just being so ashamed that that's what I was doing alongside, you know, trying to launch my coaching business in the first year. But I say now, you know, well, I'm here, you know, 13, 14 years later, but you have to do whatever it takes to, if you're really passionate about your business and making it work, then you'll do some other work alongside it to get those bills paid.
I did. So I think the one thing I remember was a law firm that I wanted to work for came to us and said, and they did that thing. And I know a lot of actors do this where someone says, "Oh, can you ride a horse?" Of course I can ride a horse.
Yeah.
And this law firm came to us and went, "Look, can you convert a PowerPoint presentation into a movie?" Of course I can. It's no problem at all. And it was effectively like 4 days of teaching myself. I think it was Adobe After Effects. And I had to teach myself Adobe After Effects and then put it all together and get it all sorted and make it all run. And Andy wanted me to record the voiceover as well. So recording the voiceover, making it all fit. And there was a friend of mine in America who knows After Effects really well. So kind of late night for me, phone calls with him to try and just get my head around it. And it was for pennies. I mean, I did it for, but it was just, yes, here we go. They might want a podcast after this.
Oh, that's so true.
Going down the route of the fake it till you make it kind of thing. Is that the...
Yeah, of course I could do. And it's again, that's only been in the past maybe 6 months that I've started saying, no, I that's not what I do. That's, you know, I can put you in touch with some people, but no, I can't do that because I'd be rubbish at it.
And that is so empowering, isn't it? To say, no, that's not what I do.
That's the hardest lesson, I think, in business overall, you know, saying no and working out when's the right time to say no, or, you know,
so
sometimes not being too quick to say no, but also not being too quick to say yes, you know, it's the thing.
But that leads me nicely into the question, you know, what do you wish you'd have known when you started out? Do you wish, Pete, taking that example, do you wish you'd have said no to that?
No, because it is a skill I've used again. I wish actually that did start a good relationship, but I think my immaturity as a business owner ruined the relationship in a lot of ways, because I think we'd still be working together now, but I just didn't know how to deal with a big company. You know, if you think, so for 30 years, I'd sat behind a microphone or I'd stood behind someone sat behind a microphone, and I really had a very limited number of jobs, and relationships were already set. There was no schmoozing or networking, or there was none of that. You walked in, with a built-in reputation for what you did, because you were coming into that room as a producer or a presenter. People knew what they were getting, whereas that, of course, goes as soon as you're the business owner. So no, I'm glad I used it, because I've used it for other stuff now. Not as much as I thought I probably would, but no, I'm glad I said yes to it.
Yeah.
You know, I probably should have just charged more.
Everything is all part of the learning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you wish you'd have charged more.
Oh, of course. You always wish that, though. You always think, oh, actually, I could have probably upped that. I could have easily doubled that and got more.
Yeah.
But
I think confidence is a thing, though, isn't it? It's something that grows as the years go by. As you're saying, you know, the longer you've been in business, the more confident you are about things like pricing and that kind of thing. And when you start out, you say kind of saying yes to stuff because you don't have the confidence to say no or to charge more or whatever it might be. And there's an air of, you know, of that. So yeah, that's the big part of the learning curve, is to grow that confidence. And
and that only comes with time and experience.
Unless you're really cocky.
Hey, what do you wish you'd have known when you started out?
Oh, I think for me, and I feel a bit embarrassed how long it took me to learn this lesson. And this is the what's in it for me psychology. And I got this so wrong for such a long time. I'd go and have meetings with clients, potential clients, with prospects. And I thought what they wanted me to do was go through 30 pages of work examples of things I'd done for other people. And I could see them glazing over. I'd be like, why aren't you interested? I thought, there's 25 more pages of this. What do I do now? They're not interested. It took me a really long time to learn that lesson. And that lesson you can apply to so many parts of business. So not just, you know, meetings, but networking, how you talk on social media, what you put on your website. It's all got to be from their perspective. What do people get from you? What's the end result? How do they benefit? That's all they're interested in. Don't reel off 30-page presentations of previous work you've done, because they just don't want to see it.
Absolutely. And they might have been interested in the first place, but it's just the biggest turn off, isn't it? It's like when we've talked about going into networking events and people like shoving their business card straight in your face. You just don't do it.
No. I think for me, that was another turning point for me. And I learned that lesson. And now when I sit down and talk to people about what it is that they need from me, I'm asking questions about them. And I think that's something I wish I'd known as well from the start, and not having several embarrassing clangers where, you know, where I was just doing death by PowerPoint to people. Really, it's not what people want to see or want to know about.
Yeah, that's a great share. I kind of like what Pete said earlier about, you know, if you knew how hard it was, you would think twice. It's like, you know, if you knew how hard it was to have children, you know, the human race would have been long extinct. Because if I'd have known how hard it was, well, yeah, I would definitely have thought twice, and that would have been disastrous for me, because, you know, running a business for me, I love it now. I love, you know, 95% of what it means to be a business owner. But I think the most important thing I wish I'd have known at the beginning was what an important asset my network was. And just how much all the people around me was going to keep me inspired and motivated, and keep me with my finger on the pulse, keep me learning all the time. So yeah, how important the network.
Yeah, you have to find your crowd, don't you? Find your crowd, and it's amazing how many people out there really want you to succeed, and they want you to do well, and they'll put, you know, business your way, and they'll help you, and they'll make the time to sit and talk to you about some of the problems you might be having. I think that's a really good call.
Yeah, and to always ask for help. We know in business, you know, not all the time things aren't always going to be going well. So it's important to ask for help when you need it, because, you know, like you said, Kate, you know, we all look out for each other and want each other to do well. So if you need help, never be afraid to go into someone trusted in your network to say, I've got this challenge. How can you help me?
I've also found that when things are hard, or when you think it's going to be hard, it's always kind of coming back to what was the inspiration in doing it in the first place? You know, why start a business, and just kind of remind yourself why you're doing it. And
start with your why.
Yeah, because that's, you know, when I started out, I didn't really have a plan, as I say, but I did have certain things, certain thoughts, and certain kind of fears, I suppose, about what it'd be like to run my own business. And I didn't have a lot of you know, commitments, and it was quite an easy decision from a sort of personal level. But you know, those kind of fears and things were probably allayed mostly by me thinking about what it was that inspired me to want to start a business, and looking to people who were, you know, who were mentors really to me. So when I started out, and kind of drawing on that to regain that positivity and go for it.
Yeah, keep your head in the game. So Darren, as a side note, what's your why? Why do you do what you do?
Because I'm useless at everything else, basically.
So well done.
And I couldn't get a job as being an astronaut. They wouldn't have me. So the next best thing is web design, I thought. No, I mean, it's, for me, it is the inspiration of having my own business is to have the independence, the flexibility, to be able to kind of, you know, call the shots to a degree in terms of, you know, what we're doing, and to work with lots of different types of clients and different types of businesses, and you know, it's all really varied and fun and interesting. And even when you're working for somebody else, you can't guarantee that, can you? You're at the mercy of your boss, kind of thing. And so yeah, I think it's that kind of freedom and flexibility.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so what's something that you've failed at in that first year, looking back? What's the one big thing that you think, oh, that was not good? We've heard about Kate's death by PowerPoint. Kate, what's your big cringe moments on your first year?
I think I did admit to a guy that was running a network meeting that I was only coming because the breakfast was good. And at the time it was, you know, it was like, what? I'm going along to hear some people witter on. I'm going to get breakfast. Bring it on.
That's what got me to my first networking meeting too.
So that didn't really go down that well. And I think the other one is meeting someone that you don't know in a professional capacity, and I'm very quick to share. I'm very quick to kind of get to know them, and realizing when I've kind of mentioned our dogs for like the 8th time that they really could not give a monkeys about your dogs, how proud you are of your wife, how you did on the latest PS4 game you've been playing. They don't care. They just want to find out about your company and what you do as a professional. So so that was they were two that even now I'll still wake up in the middle of the night just with that kind of, why did I say that? So,
Kate, what about you?
I was just giggling to myself because I don't know, I definitely share far too much information as well.
Yeah.
I still do it now. It's not something I've really learned from, but in some ways, I think, you know, people do need to know the real you. We're more than just our businesses, and you do need to buy into people. I suppose there is a limit. You know, people don't want to know about the embarrassing rash or things like that, but you know, I think it's that I've got an embarrassing rash.
Too late now. Too late.
I can tell you all about it. We'll do a podcast on that later. But yeah, I think it's quite important to be able to do that. But you know, going back to you know, Darren's point as well about you know, the reasons that we've gone into business in the first place. I think it's really important to remember that as well, so that you know, you don't lose sight of what you're doing it for. I think it's you know, it's important to do that. So you know, and sometimes your personal life is part of that. You know, that's why we're doing it. You know, one of the reasons I set up on my own was because I've got 2 children who were quite young at the time, and I wanted to be able to go to sports days, and I wanted to be able to fit my work around, you know, class assemblies, and if they were poorly, I could just, you know, work from home and, you know, give them Calpol and cuddles, you know, while I was doing it, and that's my drive. That was my driver. And there were so many clangers that I dropped prior to, you know, going to work for myself, that actually setting up a business improved life in so many ways. And I remember turning up to work and I still had the kids in the back of the car because I'd driven straight past their nursery and completely pulled up in the car park, looked in the rearview mirror. I was like, what the hell are you two still doing in here? Why don't you say something?
That's amazing.
2 pairs of eyes blinking back at me. I'm like, for God's sake, I had to drive all the way back there and drop them off. And I think sometimes people, you know, that's just part of who we all are. It's part of our, you know, it's part of our why. It's, you know, I think maybe it should be part of our brand story as well, you know.
Completely agree. When I was thinking about my answer to this, I actually, one of the big things that I failed at the beginning was trying to shut down a lot of my personality. I'd come out of corporate, having been in there for 10 years, and I felt like I needed to be serious because I'm in business now, so I've got to be serious. But I shut down a lot of the fun side of me, thinking that people wouldn't take me seriously. And I think a lot of the years that I networked at the beginning of my business were probably wasted because I was just this different person. So it was really nice having that realization, and something that I have to, you know, talk to a lot of my clients about. Just be yourself. You don't have to, you know, put on this serious hat just because you're in business. You know, people, you know, that saying, people buy from people, it sounds so cheesy, but oh my God, it is so true. We want to see the personality behind people's businesses. So, you know, don't be afraid of showing who you are.
I think that works in 2 ways as well, obviously from being the supplier to a client, but also when you're starting out in business. And one of the things that I think I got lucky at was choosing suppliers for my business. So the most important one, I guess, when you're starting out is an accountant. And I just went with the accountant that I set up a bank account at the bank, and they said, "Oh, do you need to talk to an accountant? Here's a, you know, obviously some kind of deal going on there. Here's a card for an accountant. Go and talk to them." Now, I think I got lucky because they were a really good accountant, and you know, they were great. But it could easily have backfired, and I wasn't thinking about how I'm gonna, you know, build a relationship with this supplier, this, you know, accountant, and how the importance of the, you know, people buying from people, the personality, and how you're going to work together, especially someone as important as your accountant, because, you know, that's a really important relationship for any business to have, particularly a new business when you're going into something thinking, as I was, you know, I design websites. I don't know anything about invoicing. I don't know anything about accounts. I don't really know anything about profitability versus, you know, turnover and all of these kind of things, and what's important and what's not. I just design websites and, you know, make them look pretty or whatever. And, you know, your accountant is one of those mentors, one of those coaches that you need on board at the beginning. And so it's important to choose wisely, I think, and to think about, you know, who you're going to be working with ongoing. And I think that's something that I almost made a mistake with at the beginning, but lucky at it, you know.
It goes back to that, you know, your networking, or your network being your most important asset. You know, really make those careful decisions about who you're bringing into your business, because they are effectively, everyone you bring in is part of your team. They might not be on the payroll, but they are part of your team. So would you really have someone on your team that you didn't like, or was boring, or you know,
just the
whatever.
First person that you met kind of thing, you know? You know.
You'll do.
Yeah.
So what should I have asked you about that I didn't, Pete?
how close you can potentially come to just knocking it all on the head. And I think in the first 12 months...
Just got serious.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. In the first 12 months, I think there was probably 2 or 3 times that I was like, okay, this is just not going to work. And I think, listen, you know, it's not that I'd invented flying or I'd even invented podcasting, but no one was doing what I was doing. And that was something that was feeding into, maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe there's a reason nobody's doing what you're doing, because nobody wants to do it, you know, or nobody needs to tell them how to do it. So that was kind of the big thing was, yeah, how close you come. And I'm incredibly glad that I didn't, because I love running this business and I love seeing it start to grow and knowing that there's a lot more room for growth. But yeah, that kind of, okay, yeah, I could have just finished and got a job. And I distinctly remember signing up, still get emails now from Reed and from my CV.
Unsubscribe, Pete.
Yeah, you know, still get emails, and you know, but just kind of like, well, I don't know. Let's see what other jobs are out there. But again, like I say, I'm really glad I didn't.
Yeah,
I've had those too, where you kind of you're feeling a bit low. You look at the jobs and see what's going around, and then whatever happens, something perks you up again, and you think, again, it's going back to that inspiration. You know, why am I doing this working for myself business?
Yeah.
And sometimes you just remind yourself that, you know, actually working for someone else would probably not be as much fun as it looks.
I've never done it. I've never worked for anybody else. For 2 years I worked at a bank, but outside of that, I've always been self-employed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I would have hated it. I'm working in an office as well, because I'm guessing, I mean, you guys have worked in offices. What are they like on afternoon naps? Are they all right on siestas? Do they allow that kind of thing?
You can't have any nanny naps.
Oh well, then, yeah, I'm glad I didn't go down that route then.
I mean, in fairness, I used to work for Sky, and they were quite fun. There was quite a lot of, you know, there was a pool table and pizzas and things like that.
Yeah.
Type of attitude, because we were, you know, turn of the century, web and high tech, and everyone was kind of like,
turn of the century. God, that makes us sound so old.
Yeah, it was all pizzas and pool tables, and then it started to get a bit more serious after the .com boom and all of that popped. So yeah, it became less fun, a bit more corporate after a while.
Yeah. So Kate, what should I have asked you about that I didn't?
Do I have any regrets? And it's a resounding no from me, because I think I'm a better person from putting myself through this journey. I think I've learned so much about myself, pushing myself to limits, pushing myself out of my comfort zone in every direction, and I'm proud of myself. I think I'm right in saying this, but most businesses, they don't survive their first year, do they? Is that am I right in saying that? I'm sure I've read that somewhere.
A really high percentage. I believe it's like 95% of businesses do not survive their first year. But there's a really scary stat as well, that percentage is still really high after 10 years.
Really?
So, and this is what I was thinking about when I was planning for this, what one thing would I change, or what would I do differently? And I think I always thought that, right, at some point I'm going to have this business thing nailed, and I can sit back and really relax and just watch it all happen around me. And that's been an important lesson to me as the years have ticked by, that you're never going to be sitting on your laurels on your business, because things are always evolving. Products and services are always changing, and if you're really passionate about your business, then you always want to be innovating and creating and doing things differently. So never just think, oh, I'll just, I've got that nailed, I can chill now, because it doesn't work like that, and you wouldn't want it to be.
No.
That's the entrepreneurial spirit, though, isn't it?
Absolutely.
If you're going to set up a business, you have to have that. You know, you can't be comfortable with just sitting on your ass. Really, it's that. I know I'm not. I can do it for about 30 minutes, and then I'm like, right, what's the next challenge? So I just think that my advice to people would be, you know, there's going to be real highs, there's going to be real lows, there's going to be multiple times you'll feel like jacking it all in, but just stick with it, because you get better at it.
Yeah.
You will get better, and you'll learn how to deal with some of the challenges. You know, I look back now on some of the things that I found difficult, you know, a few years back, and it's fine now. I can hold my own with it now. So, you know, just keep focused on your why, and why you're doing it, why you did it in the first place, and listen and learn from your network.
Yeah, I think finding your own network is a big thing, and if you can, get a business coach. But because they introduce you to stuff that's like, I never even thought of this. I never even considered that this was a thing I had to think about.
Yeah.
You know.
Great advice, guys, obviously. But yeah, one of my pieces of advice, or what I'm taking away from all of this, is, you know, that there is a system and a strategy for everything in business. It is like, you know, a big jigsaw puzzle, and you have that missing part, and once you've got it, then everything kind of falls into place. So yeah, always reach out to people, because somebody has just the answer that you're looking for, and it'll be a big, oh, I just need to do that, and everything works. Darren, what's your let's go with what's your one piece of sage advice for those entrepreneurs setting out in their first year in business?
Well, I think it's, you know, right at the beginning of the process, the very first step, the very first kind of hurdle, getting over that, I think, is a biggie. And I think usually that first hurdle is, you know, where do you start? And for me, it's a case of, if you want to be a self-employed dog groomer, then be a self-employed dog groomer. Just tell people you're a self-employed dog groomer, you know, and just jump straight into it, really. Get on with it. Because, you know, you can't say, well, I'm thinking about starting a business, being a dog groomer. No, you're a dog groomer now. That's it.
Yes.
That's it. Do it, embrace it, get on with it, and then you're over the first hurdle, I think.
Yeah.
I thought your piece of advice was, what you need is a good website.
Oh, damn, I forgot about that one.
Goes without saying. You need a great website, a great brand, incredible business coach, and you need an awesome podcast.
Yeah, that's all of those things. They are, you know, they should be your first port of call when it comes to starting your own business.
You can't fail. You can't fail
exactly.
with those 4 things.
I remember a story I love was Mr. Wrigley, the guy behind the chewing gum.
Yeah.
Was on a plane with someone, and they were chatting to him. And this guy said, I don't get why you advertise. I mean, you are the single biggest brand in what you do in the world. There's no one even coming close. So why do you advertise? And he said, for the same reason that this plane keeps its engines running once it's got up in the air. And I genuinely, that was like a light bulb thing for me of, it doesn't end. It just gets easier. You know, I think that theory can be applied to running your own business and being a business owner of it never stops. You never can do that, Claire, that you were saying of, right, I can sit back now. That never comes about, but it just gets easier to deal with, you know, with every day, really. It kind of gets a bit easier to kind of keep going.
I think that is the perfect way to end this podcast. So thank you, everybody. And to our lovely listeners, please share, subscribe and review so all our fellow business owners can enjoy, be inspired, and always keep focused on the fun side of business too.